Hello and welcome to the HR Kyle podcast, the ultimate resource for HR insights and guidance that will empower both seasoned business professionals and eager job seekers. I'm HR Kyle, your host. I'm excited to embark on this journey with you. In each episode, we'll delve into the intricacies of HR management, uncovering strategies that can transform the way you approach talent acquisition, employee engagement, and workplace dynamics. Whether you're a seasoned HR pro navigating the ever-evolving landscape of human resources or a job seeker striving to land your dream position, this podcast is your compass. Our mission is simple: to provide you with actionable knowledge, expert interviews, and inspiring stories that will help you thrive in the world of HR. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to take your HR game to the next level. Welcome to the HR Kyle podcast, where HR meets success. Hello and welcome to another edition of the HR Kyle podcast. I'm your host, HR Kyle. Tonight, as usual, we have an information-packed episode in store for you. In segment 1, we have a nursing student who has added to her already busy schedule to write her first book. We'll be talking with her about that experience and how she manages to juggle all the demands in her life while also managing healthy life habits and career success. In segment 2, we have a seasoned professional joining us to talk about his unique career journey full of persistence, hard work, and a positive can-do attitude. But before we dive into these wonderful discussions, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hello, fellow professionals. Are you ready to revolutionize your approach to recruiting? I'm HR Kyle, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to my latest book, Recruiting is Easy, now available on Amazon and other online retailers. In today's dynamic HR landscape, it's all about strategic branding and engagement. My book unveils the secrets to crafting exceptional employee experiences, attracting top talent, and fostering strong connections. With Recruiting is Easy, you'll master the art of continuous improvement and adaptability, shaping the future of work one relationship at a time. Get your copy today and unlock the potential of HR as a strategic powerhouse. Remember, recruiting should be easy. I'm HR Kyle, and together, let's redefine recruiting. Look for Recruiting is Easy on Amazon and other book online retailers. And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that break and are ready to settle into today's insightful discussion. But joining us is a talented new author, Abby, who will share her story and inspire us all with the idea that we can have multiple dreams and aspirations for our lives. And it's perfectly acceptable. In fact, highly encouraged that you pursue all of these. Abby, thank you for joining the HR Kyle podcast today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, Abby, we always start off with the easiest question, and I make sure it gets incredibly difficult from here. So let's start off easy. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Abby. I am from Cleveland, Ohio, and currently I'm in my last year of nursing school at Ohio State. I have 2 sisters who I'm very proud of, and I'm a really big football fan.
Wonderful. And I'm sure you're a fan of the Cleveland Browns if you're from Cleveland, correct?
Yes, sadly.
Okay. Yeah, good answer. So, Abby, you've recently released your first book called Should I Stay or Should I Go? What prompted you to write this book?
I was actually a senior in high school, and I kind of took all the required classes I needed, so I decided to take a fun class, creative writing. And I think it was one of our assignments towards the end of the year. We had to write a short story. And I really like music. I listen to music all the time. I love filling the silence with music. And while I was trying to brainstorm ideas, I was listening to Hotel California. My dad really likes the Eagles, and I really like that song. And kind of when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, like, I could kind of like make a little story about it. So the first chapter in Should I Stay or Should I Go is actually called Hotel California. And that was the short story I had turned in as an assignment. And then kind of during COVID, I was really bored and I revisited that chapter again. And I was like, there's a lot of other interesting characters I could explore. So I kind of just started making an outline and adding it from there.
Wonderful story, Abby, about how you wrote the story. So I appreciate you walking us through that. Now, as you mentioned, you're currently a new nursing student at a major university. Now, that's a very science related field, right? But
Yes.
your book, as you've described it, is a fictional story about a hotel and its guests and really some weird things going on. Now, that's not your typical story, right? A mystery you'd
Yes.
expect from someone in a science profession. So where did that inspiration come from beyond, as you shared, the song Hotel California and your relationship with your father?
I think I love nursing, I do. But science is very cut and dry, and oftentimes people in the medical field, patients, family members will ask like more of what else is out there, what more we can do, and they don't want the standard typical like sciencey answer. And I really like kind of opening my mind to other possibilities. I've always loved fiction, stories and writing, and I just think sometimes it's easier to look at different possibilities through mystery or fiction instead of kind of trying to find another idea with more clear cut answers like in science.
When I think that's a good lesson for many of our listeners out there that look for multiple ways to expand your horizons. And certainly it sounds like having more than one option that you can turn people to, having other outlets to stretch your creativity and stretch your ability to be a better nurse. It sounds like that's where a lot of this came from. Am I correct?
Yes.
Well, Abby, there's certainly a strong dose of psychology within the storyline. How does that understanding of people tie back to the work you want to do as a nurse?
I think it sort of ties in of you're always going to have assumptions, whether you're like conscious of it or not. There's always going to be kind of the initial thought you're going to think of someone or something based off of a very quick first impression. And I think while I was writing this book, I wanted to dive into like different layers people may have and how sometimes first impressions aren't necessarily truly what people are. And I think that can apply to nursing, that you really want to open your mind when you meet new patients and their families because there may be more going on than what you can see, and just to be really open-minded and respectful to other people's maybe beliefs, or also be conscious of your impression that you're giving people, because sometimes that might not be the impression that they're receiving from you, and it might not really be a true picture of your character.
Abby, I think what you've shared there goes well beyond the nursing profession and your work there. And I appreciate you sharing that insight. I think there's a lot of wisdom to be gained there to give people a chance to show you fully who they are. And as you said, don't go on those first impressions. But by the same token, I hear you also saying be conscious of the image that you convey also.
Yes.
Now, great lessons there from a professional development standpoint. And again, thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So here's the big question, Abby. You're already busy with school full time, and I know you work outside of that. And then you add everything related to writing a book and publishing it. And I know a little something about that because I recently published a book as well. For those wondering, where do you find the time, one, and what advice would you give to others who want to do more but already feel like they're stretched?
So I, like I had said before, started at my senior year of high school. And I mean, for all the craziness COVID had, it did kind of allow me to really think and expand on some of my thoughts. And honestly, without COVID, I don't know if I really would have given that another thought. It was pretty hard to kind of work during school. So I did a lot of it, I feel like, in the summer mainly. I actually finished it this past summer when I was at jury duty, waiting to be called. Um, but honestly, if I wasn't writing in that, I jot down little notes, poems, whatever, all the time. So I think it's, if you really like writing or it's like one of your hobbies, always make time for your hobbies in your busy school or work life, because you do need to relax and de-stress and have some time for yourself. So I would always make, like, even if it's 5-10 minutes, like make a little time to do what you love in the chaos of your life. But that was mainly the thing. I just sometimes was like, or I always have paper around me, so if an idea came, I would jot it down really quick and like maybe revisit it later. But my parents are really supportive of that too. I had my dedication to my mom, because I would always brainstorm or tell her ideas during my process, and she always told me that she could always never wait to read it. And then as my dad, as I said before with music, but he is a very creative person too. So we oftentimes would bounce ideas off each other, or he would help with a character. And it was really the support of them that I think allowed me to really be creative and have good goals to set. And if I could give advice for anyone, is just, if you have a goal, if you want to write a book, just write it. It took me many, many tries for me to be happy with the final version, because the first version probably is always going to suck. But as long as you finish it and really keep at it, it'll eventually turn to what you're envisioning.
No, Abby, great advice there. And a couple of themes that I pulled out, and one I talk about often is life is a team game. And it sounds like with your parents, you have a wonderful support system there that you can count on and you can rely on. I'm guessing probably in good times as well as some tougher times, it sounds like. And then the other theme that I think is a wonderful one there is that make the time. And like you said, maybe it's 5 or 10 minutes here and there, but you made that time and you saw it more as promoting your mental health, your mental health and your well-being. Well, Abby, before we wrap up this segment, I'd like to give you the floor for a moment to make a pitch for your new book and let us know where we can find it and remind our listeners of the title and whatever else you want to say to pitch your book.
All right. The title is Should I Stay or Should I Go? It is on Amazon for, I believe only $18. If you're a fan of Alfred Hitchcock movies, I think you would enjoy it, because it's kind of the same style of you know more than the characters, and you kind of get a full picture before you do. So it's kind of thrilling and suspenseful that way. It's also a very easy read. So anywhere from, I would say, 13 and up can read it. About 200 pages, which seems like a lot, but I promise you it's not that big or scary or daunting. And yeah, I would just love for all to check it out. And if you do read it, I would love to hear what you thought. So leave a review on Amazon. And I really appreciate you, Kyle, for having me on here today.
No, Abby, you're very welcome. Thank you for sharing your inspiring story and reminding us all that it's okay to dream big and to pursue multiple passions in life. And I am sure your words have truly resonated with our audience here today.
Thank you.
And to all our listeners, stay tuned as we take a brief break. And when we return, we're going to dive into segment 2, where another guest joins us to talk about their career journey and the twists and turns that they've learned are so common. Stay tuned.
Are you striving to lead your team to success? Or perhaps you're navigating the complexities of the job market. Introducing The Solution, the HR Kyle YouTube channel. Your go-to source for insightful guidance and practical tips. With short 1 to 2 minute clips, our videos save you time while delivering impactful, usable strategies. From effective leadership techniques to mastering the job application process, access valuable advice in minutes. Don't miss out. Subscribe to the HR Kyle channel on YouTube today.
Greetings, I'm Kyle Smith, and I'm here to offer you a speaking experience that goes beyond the ordinary. With a rich background in leadership, HR, and personal development, I bring a unique blend of expertise and passion to every presentation. Whether it's Leadership Unleashed, well-being at work, or career mastery, I delve into topics that empower individuals and organizations to reach their fullest potential. What sets me apart? Proven expertise an engaging delivery style, and actionable insights that drive positive change. But here's the kicker. I don't just offer a one-size-fits-all approach. I customize my content to meet the specific needs and goals of your event. So let's elevate your event together. Contact me now to reserve your date and unlock the full potential of your audience and organization. Don't miss out on the opportunity to inspire greatness. Visit hrkyle.com today. It's time for segment 2, where we have Randy joining us. I think you're really going to find Randy's career journey both entertaining and inspiring as he shares his unique path and how so much of his success is attributable to his attitude and work ethic. Randy, thank you for joining us on the HR Kyle podcast.
Hey, hi, Kyle. Glad to talk to you, and certainly feel excited to talk about my little work history.
Wonderful, Randy. Thank you very much. We're glad you're here. Randy, we start off easy, and then it gets really difficult after this. But the first question, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a little older than probably a lot of the people you talk to. I'm now pushing 61. Been married for almost 40 years. 2 kids, 3 grandkids, and just kind of waiting to kind of hit that retirement age.
Great, Randy. Thank you for sharing that. And again, just having that perspective, I think it lays the groundwork for the rest of the things that we'll talk about tonight. And I'm fortunate that I've got some background knowing your work history a little bit. And a few things have really stood out to me. And that's what I want to talk with you about tonight. One, Randy, you got your start in manufacturing doing probably one of the toughest jobs in the entire plant. Can you describe that job to this audience?
Sure. I was probably, I want to say maybe 22 years old. And back in that'd been 1984, where there really weren't a lot of jobs out there for, guys my age. The economy wasn't really doing well. So I spent a lot of time in the fast food industry, and I finally got a job inside a manufacturing plant. And all of a sudden my salary went from minimum wage to probably twice that much. And I was really excited. And that was until I found the job they were putting me at. It was a place that manufactured automotive hoses, and the job was called pin and pull. And I was working afternoon shift, which was another negative because all my friends were playing sports in the evenings, and I was stuck working in a hot, sweaty plant. And the job itself was basically you'd get straight pieces of a rubber hose, and you'd have to force it onto a curved mandrel that was used to kind of get the size and dimensions right to fit inside automobiles. Well, to do that, you put the hose on the formed mandrel in different shapes using a lot of lubrication, and then you'd cook it in an oven for like 35 minutes at like 500 degrees. And when after that time was up, you'd pull that hose. It was really on like what we called cars back then. It'd have a couple hundred pieces of formed tube that you'd have to right away pull off those hot mandrels, because if you waited, they'd stick more. So you had to work as fast as you can, but those pieces were now greasy and hot. So you use gloves, but the gloves weren't that great. So after a while, they would start getting hot from the grease seeping through your gloves. And at the end of the day, your hands are pretty well shot if you're a new person where you're not used to working around it. So my hands ended up blistered in all different ways and shapes.
And Randy, you painted a good picture there, but our audience almost would need to be there to understand just how dirty this job was. And I have, again, it's been a few years, and I have some memory of you working this job. And I just remember, one, how filthy it was, how physically exhausting it was. And when you say an oven, you're talking how many degrees temperature was the work environment?
Well, a couple things to think about, Kyle, is if you ever open the hood of your car and look at the hoses that are in it, none of them are straight. They're all formed in a different way to make it fit from point A to point B. But you have to know at the start of that, the hose being made was made and coming out straight. So that should tell you something right there. So the oven that we cooked these hoses in was probably over 500 degrees. And you're right, when you're already working in the middle of the summer, when it can be 80, 90, 100 degrees in Ohio, inside the plant, you're probably talking temperatures in the range of 120 and 130. And to make this point even better, I used to be able to wring my shirt out and sweat would come dripping off of it like I'd just come out from a rainstorm. And I was probably in the best shape of my life as a result of it.
But Randy, even with those conditions, I think the one big takeaway besides that I want our listeners to learn is how many years were you on that job and what was a result that really pushed you leaving that job?
Well, I was probably on it the first time around. It was probably maybe 4 or 5 months. It was kind of a seasonal work. So as the automotive industry slowed down, and that was usually in the fall, sales would slow down as well in the plant. So I got laid off. And to be honest, it was a blessing in disguise because my hands were so blistered that every night my wife would put new skin on all the blisters on my hands, because what you do is you get a blister on your hand and you start using other parts of your hand, and then you get a blister there and you just move all over the place. And to be quite honest, I bet on each hand I probably had up to 10 to 15 blisters, and getting laid off allowed those blisters to heal. And after that, your hands are a little tougher. So the second time around and the third time around, your hands acclimate to the situation a lot better.
So Randy, in total, I think you were there doing that position with the breaks, of course, included at least a couple of years, right?
Yeah, definitely a couple of years. And to be quite honest, I got out of it when another job opening came within the plant, a little less difficult job, and just started kind of moving up the chain a little bit. And eventually, I applied for an office job in the traffic department, and I got that. So it was a couple of rough years there, but after a while, things got better.
Yeah, Randy, I'm trying to remember how many years were you with that company then after that start? It was a number of years, right?
Yeah, it was probably looking at close to 15 years.
Right. So you definitely paid your dues in that role, but it paid off for you in the end. You had a good stretch with them.
Yeah, they paid for my tuition, so I was able to get my degree working for them. I ended up really getting down to the corporate office as a result of it because we got bought out. They moved me down to Dayton to a kind of a corporate level traffic position. So I kind of commuted back and forth between Bucyrus and Dayton for like 6 months until I got another job down at our Worthington, Ohio office, which got me home every night at least. It was a long drive, but at least I was coming home to the family every night.
Yeah, Randy, you led into my next point wonderfully. And again, thinking about that experience there, you drove from Bucyrus to Dayton, which is roughly, about a 2-hour drive each day?
Yeah, and what was funny, Kyle, the first day I started there, I think they were having close to a blizzard. So I left the house at like 3 a.m. to get to my office job. It started at 8. I think I finally got in there about 9. But what do? You're starting your first day on a new job in a new city. And so everybody knows, I didn't move my family down there because I really didn't think it was going to be a permanent thing, because Crawford County here in Ohio is my home, and it always will be. So I was going down on a Monday morning. I had a little cheap apartment, stayed there all week, did my job, and then as soon as I got out of work Friday, I drove the 2.5, 3-hour drive back home.
Yeah. And like you said, you did that for 6 months, and then you made the drive from Bucyrus to Worthington, which is roughly a little bit over an hour drive. How many years did you make that drive?
Oh boy, that was another probably 5 years, I think.
But I thought,
that was before what you see now going to Columbus. I used to be able to get to my office probably in less than an hour, but now you have so many traffic lights and so much traffic between Delaware and Columbus, it might take an hour and a half in today's time.
no, I think you're right. And audience, in case you haven't noticed, there's a theme that's coming out here in this discussion with Randy, and I don't know if I need to point it out, but I will. Randy is the kind of guy that just kind of takes on whatever challenge comes and sticks with it and tries to make the best of it. Having known Randy during that period of time, I can honestly tell you, other than probably complaining about being a little sore or whatever, I never heard him whine or complain about going into the job or making that drive. He just did it, which again I think is a good lesson.
Well,
Randy, you spoke. Go ahead.
Radios. I was going to say, Kyle, just thankful to have air conditioning and radios in cars, because it made the drive a lot easier. And honestly, when you have a supportive family at home, it helps a lot that you're doing something for the people you care about.
Yeah, you definitely had a good, healthy balance there, and the support was critical for you.
Yeah,
Randy,
definitely.
you,
The
you spoke
support
about
and
something earlier that I want to come back to, and I think this is another great story for our audience to hear about tonight. But you mentioned earning your bachelor's degree while working for the one company. And something that I think is important to note in that story is you worked full time to support your family, as you mentioned. And you had, I think during that period of time, you had two children still at home. And also, if I'm remembering this story correctly, you did this basically 1 to 2 classes at a time each semester and over several years completed your degree. Am I remembering that story correctly?
yeah, you're right, Kyle. When they first told me about tuition reimbursement, I was a little hesitant because, to be quite honest, I wasn't a very good student in high school, but that was mostly due to application. I didn't apply myself. I just kind of went to school to see my friends and coasted by. And I always tell the story. My first day in class, it was a business management class, and I went in scared to death, thinking I was going to fail and have to pay back tuition because you had to at least get 90%, an A or B to get it paid for. And I finally applied myself. I don't know what made me apply myself, but all of a sudden, I wasn't the dummy in the back of the class. I was the kid that the other students were coming to and saying, "Hey, what'd you get? What'd you score?" Or I was the curve breaker in some cases because all of a sudden studying became easier, tests became easier, and it was an amazing transformation in my own eyes.
Oh, great story. And thank you for sharing that. And how many years did it take you from beginning to end to complete that bachelor's degree?
And you're right. It was work a full-time job,
Yeah.
take 2 classes in the evenings. Usually it was a 2 day a week class, like Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. And then you would study on your free time, and you're still being a husband, you're still being a father, you're trying to do all this. And honestly, like I said, it was 7 long years, and I was 4.0 for probably the first 5 of them. But after that, I got tired. Even I did something crazy one semester, and I took 4 classes. So I was gone from work 8 to 4, and then to classes 5 to 9, 4 days a week. And that was the first time I ever got a B, was when I did that. But I got 2 A's and 2B's that semester. And like I said, and I had to switch because, I was started out at Marion Tech, and then because of the job transfers, I ended up switching to Mount Vernon Nazarene, and they just happened to have a branch on the outskirts of Columbus. So I'd do the same thing. I'd work 8 to 5, and then I'd have class from 6 to 10 at Mount Vernon twice a week. So it was 7 years, but it was, a lot of support once again from my wife, who helped me study, the kids who were always just great about dad not being there. And, the last day of class was probably one of the best moments a person can feel. No more books, no more studying, no more tests.
This was during a period of time when there wasn't virtual classes. So everything Randy's describing here, those classes were in person for all these classes. There was nothing virtual or online about it. Am I correct, Randy?
Oh, yeah. What was virtual? that,
Yeah,
that word only came
exactly.
around in the last few years, but no, it was driving 20 miles to Marion, or driving, 20 miles to the branch there in Columbus, and, getting home at 10 o'clock at night and turning right around to doing it the next day and a half later, 2 days later. So no, I wish it was virtual.
Obviously, based on the stories we've talked about today, Randy, you're the kind of person that just does what has to be done and doesn't expect a lot of fanfare, keeps a positive attitude throughout the process. Now, that has not only given you a good work life, but a very good home life as well. And you've talked about that tonight. What would you share with someone out there who's letting the challenges get to them and negativity is really stealing their joy from these experiences that you went through?
Honestly, Kyle, if I was just on my own and working by myself and trying to get through the day-to-day stuff and going to school, I don't think I could have made it. And I'm being very sincere about that. I had an amazing wife. I had good friends. I had fellow classmates that were supportive. I mean, it took a village basically to get me through those times. I mean, it wasn't easy, but sometimes it was fun. Sometimes you do things in groups. Sometimes you do it by yourself. But, if you have the support around you, it makes getting through it a lot easier.
Great sentiments and a good way to end your segment, Randy, because one of the things I talk about is exactly what you just said. Life is a team game, and the way you enjoy success is by having a good team around you. And that's exactly what you just described there perfectly.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have an amazing wife. That's for sure. She would read some of the chapters. She loved accounting. So the time I took accounting, she's actually writing things out for me at home to study. I mean, another crazy story back in the cassette days. So that tells you how long ago it was. She would do a cassette tape of the chapter so I could listen to it in the car on my way to work. That's how supportive she was. So that's why everybody thinks she got the degree as much as I did.
Oh, that's fantastic, Randy. Thank you for sharing that. And it's been a really good conversation with you tonight. And I think the audience is really going to benefit from the stories that you shared and so on. And unfortunately, that brings us, though, to the end of segment 2. And I do want to thank you, Randy, for joining us today. As I've said a few times during this discussion, there's so much to be gained from your career journey, just about persistence, determination, and just having a positive attitude. So, Randy, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. My career's been a roller coaster, but at least it's finishing on the upward side.
Yep, on a positive note, no question. Well, folks, that also brings us to the end of this episode of the HR Kyle podcast. So I want to thank you as well, our dedicated listeners, for tuning in this week. You're why we do these shows. Remember, life is all about going after your dreams and aspirations. And although there may be challenges along the way, it's amazing what you can do with determination, resilience, and an attitude of success. So until next time, this is HR Kyle saying, stay focused, stay grounded, and stay tuned. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the HR Kyle podcast. We hope you found our discussion valuable and filled with insights that you can apply in your professional journey. Whether you're a business leader aiming to foster a thriving workplace or a job seeker looking to carve out your own path, remember that HR Kyle is the compass that can guide you towards success. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it with your network. We're committed to being your trusted source for HR wisdom, and we look forward to having you back with us for our next episode. Remember, in the world of HR and professional growth, there's always room for progress. Be sure to visit our website at hrkyle.com. That's hrkyle.com to learn more about how we can help you meet your business and professional goals. So until next time, this is HR Kyle signing off. Stay motivated, stay informed, and keep reaching for those career goals. Music provided by bensound.com. That's bensound.com.